Hello everyone, welcome back again. It's your girl, Everyone Entertainment, Pigeon and Procogis TV on YouTube, and Osarati Gist TV on Facebook. Today, we want to quickly analyze the video with the trends for social media about our in-governor of Lagos State, the governorship elect, or the governor to be His Excellency GROV, Mr. Badebo. Okay, so Mr. Badebo grant an interview with Daddy Freeze. Everybody know who be Daddy Freeze now. Daddy Freeze now one kind big journalist. Hey, in a big journalist. So he decided to interview our main man, Mr. Badebo, the LUP member, and the incoming governor of Lagos State. Okay, um the young or the youngest governor in Nigeria so far. I know say now all those Odeku men and then they like to carry governor, but now the youngest incoming governor of Lagos State now be this, so my people. So the His Excellency Mr. Badebo get some talk way I like, and the way that the free state interview he ask am many questions. You feel say you feel do many work for what was it called for Lagos. You know, say Lagos now the largest city so far for Nigeria. I hope you can do your best. I hope you can do this, you can do that. You understand? So, and he said, yes, he will. He will. And you know say this our incoming governor in architect. Okay, my people. So he get many things, and he have been on politics for a very long time. So people just they look and say the guy say na young guy. Now this kind of now we need the one with brain still fresh, not be the one with brain don't weak, don't dabaru. No, we are tired of all those ones. We not even they remember the name of the state where they the governor. Okay, my people. And secondly, they constantly ask and say, how he want to tackle the whole problem where he did for inside this Lagos state. So he talk many things within Nigeria lack. You understand? So now I say I will vote for her. You understand? Before that, on the 18th of March, I will try buy ticket go Nigeria. May I go vote for her. Once I do the voting, I enter airport, I fly back again because LOP. I need to I need to vote for LOP, my people. So guys, I will not take much of your time. I will leave you guys to watch the full video here. Please share this video and let's listen together how he's going to take Lagos forward. 40 years old man. Okay, oh, congratulations in advance. I know you have already won that seat because everything are LOP. Okay, my people, now bye bye you. No.
Is that how do
Good
we
evening.
aspirants, Your Excellency to be?
Well, it depends on what you like. Some people go incoming, some people excellency, some people
Excellency.
GBADEBO.
Uh-huh. So, ladies and gentlemen, I was just speaking before you joined live, and I was saying Labour Party is a party. It's not just Peter Obi for president. It's Labour Party's structure being put into proper perspective across Nigeria. So with us today, we have the Labour Party governorship aspirant for Lagos State. I haven't launched on Facebook and YouTube. One of the things you're going to fix, or should I say if or when, which do you prefer?
When by God's grace.
When, okay. One of the things you have to fix is traffic. Because, oh my goodness, it's another thing entirely. And the fuel queues did not help the situation at all. The fuel queues, there's a lot of work. You know those days when people became governors or ministers, it was celebration in the family. You go chop money well. Now, you go walk. I know they even envy anybody who won't enter office.
And because so many people have so much hope, the level of expectations is at an all-time high. So yes, it's a lot of work. A lot of work.
So your people are here. I advertised this earlier on. People love Peter Obi. They love the Labour Party. So anything Labour Party, Peter Obi, everybody's going to be here. And I know you're not going to disappoint, because Lagos is a very powerful part of Nigeria. And if you made it as the candidate for the Labour Party, then you obviously know what you're doing. So I'm setting up TikTok too. I want us to be everywhere. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Okay, about 300 people are already on Facebook. Let me set YouTube up. Okay. All right, so YouTube too is live. Yes. So let's start by me asking you to introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is GBADEBO. I'm an architect by profession. I'm a politician by passion. I like to say that. I'm 39 years old. I graduated from MIT for architecture. And when I decided to go into politics, I went to University of Lagos and got a master's in research and public policy. I worked with the American government, the Chinese government, and urban planning projects. I worked in England for quite some time in architecture, and then came back to Nigeria, worked in some architecture firms as well. My journey into politics was born out of activism. For about 3 years, I was in a struggle with the federal government against the introduction of genetic modified foods into the country, mainly because the country will lose food sovereignty, health consequences without any oversight or regulation, and also the fact that you cannot replant those seeds, right? And you pretty much give out your food sovereignty to international multinationals, right? So I led a 2,000-man march on the Senate in 2016. And unfortunately, the senators that came out to address us, I felt lacked empathy. And they did not address any of our issues. All they just reminded me about was that they were two-time governors, and that's the basis on which I should listen to them, and they were not really saying anything much. So I came back to Lagos, and I said, to hell with these people, I'm going into politics. And I joined the COA party and ran for local government chairman. So that's the start of my journey. Then I was in the PDP, contested for Senate, Lagos West. That's the largest central district in Nigeria by population. Ikeja all the way to Badagry. I had the most opposition votes in Lagos State in that election. After Atiku in the PDP, it was myself, and then the governorship candidate, and then the senatorial candidate of Lagos East. I'm passionate about youth involvement in politics. I feel that my role for the longest time has been to demystify the space. Because I was raised at a time where everybody said it was only dirty people that go into politics. Right? Pastors used to say, so for me, I feel that what I've done in the past since 2016 was to demystify the process, to open it up, to encourage people to get involved and to lead by example. I'm a Lagosian, and what else? Yeah, I think that's an intro.
Usually I pride myself at giving very good introductions, but I don't think I did you justice. Guys on YouTube and Facebook, if you're just logging in, we have the Labour Party gubernatorial candidate, GBADEBO RHODES Viva. How do you pronounce
it? Viva.
Okay, yeah. GBADEBO RHODES Viva. Before I say anything, is MIT not the best school in the world?
Well, when I was there, it was. I think it still is.
Like, you went to the best school in the whole world. Ha!
Yeah, it's very good.
Leaders that did not go to any school. So, if we have leaders that not only went to school, went to the best school, please, sorry, because these days it's very hard. So people say, I can wake up now and say I went to Harvard. If imagine we're at a pub. That's what they call them in the UK, or a beer parlor for the local man in Nigeria. And you said you went to MIT. Me too, I don't want to sound like I went to UI. I'll just say, me too, yes, I was in Harvard. I hope you have classmates that can identify you, because so many of our leaders went to so many that
I know, right?
Identify.
Yeah.
So
And also my program was not one of those 1 week, 2 week programs, you know.
Oh,
I'm not one of those people. My program was 3.5 years. Yeah, it was
that is what
3.5 years. Yeah, not all those 2 week things that they do. It was
I
3.5
don't want
years.
to hype this gentleman, but you see, not only did he go to study in the best university in the world, he studied building, construction, architecture, which is in a modern city can never be overemphasized. You go to Singapore, Tokyo,
Yeah.
Hong Kong, London, New York. These places are renowned for their architecture. So it would be a great idea. You know, I'm neutral. Anybody comes to my platform, I appreciate them. So I'm neutral. But I kind of like a young man who's not yet 40, who studied in a university, not just any university, the best university in the world, who studied a relevant course to Nigeria. You see, sometimes you can go there and study religious studies. Not like it's not useful, but is it
Yeah.
relevant to Nigeria's current predicament? So he also
Mm.
studied architecture. He has his master's in political science from Unilag.
Yeah.
He also has been an activist fighting against genetic modified foods. Now, let's talk about your fight. Before we go to, I'm just going to ask you questions all over the place. Let's talk about genetically modified food. Why are you so passionate about fighting that cause?
Okay, so generally, I feel that most problems that we have in Nigeria can be corrected by having good leadership. So generally, regardless of how we're going, most of our problems can be corrected with the right leadership. Now, the introduction of genetic modified foods cannot necessarily be corrected because those specimens colonize your natural varieties. And then those varieties now become genetically modified and carry on those properties of the genetically modified foods. Also, you lose your trade partners, like the entire European Union has bans and regulations against genetic modified foods. So on all fronts, it was really policy that was not in the interest of the common man. And food connects everybody, the driver, the literate, the illiterates, the president, the governor. And that's why you find that abroad, even in America, where they're the major proponents of genetic modified foods, they have labeling. Now, you can imagine Nigeria does not have the regulations or the oversight to even ensure that labeling from farms in rural areas are done properly. So even if you wanted to focus on eating organic foods, that will not necessarily be feasible. So for the fact that 80% of our employment in Nigeria really is the rural sector and it's agriculture, right? This is something that's going to affect everybody. And so something that I felt will not be corrected by good leadership. Even if you want to correct it and go against those policies, this is a 20, 30-year span. And that's only if you've monitored and you're testing the level of contamination genetically across your country, which we are not doing.
Well, quite a lot to worry about. So let me try to get you right from the little agriculture I know. So the genetically modified plants will be cross-pollinated with our local...
Exactly.
All the traits, and we'll start to see Oyinbo kind diseases here too.
Pretty much, yes. Because it's linked to cancer, it's linked to endocrine dysfunction, it's linked to reproductive failure, it's linked to so much, you know. And then also there's the agro processing of it. So the chemicals that are linked to it, the level of pollution that it creates, how it contaminates the water bodies as well. It truly is a disaster, especially in a country that does not have proper regulations and proper monitoring and oversight. And it's something that very few, it's not a popular, trendy topic. So it's also very difficult to get people to get behind you, you know. But I did this for 3 years. So it's not, but it's something that will affect everybody. Food affects everybody. So I felt it was a very important thing to do.
Okay, let's talk about education. You seem to have scored very high in that regard. How do you rate the education in Lagos State currently and Nigeria as a whole?
Education in Nigeria is extremely poor. I would say it's quite mediocre. Education is supposed to prepare you to be a critical thinker, and you find that that's not the case. You have young kids that are still being told that Mungo Park discovered River Niger this year. River Niger that their ancestors were bathing in when the Europeans were probably in caves, right? So the syllabus, we're still going off the British syllabus that was created in a way to produce workers, but not necessarily critical thinkers or innovators, right? So the whole system, first of all, needs to be overhauled. We need a system that's producing producers, people that are critical thinkers. Now, obviously, there are always exceptions. I'm not saying that there are no brilliant people in the Nigerian education system. I'm looking at the system in itself for what it is. Also, when you look at the welfare packages for teachers, the standard ratio by UNESCO is 1 to 20 in a classroom. In some places, you have 1 to 60, some places you have 1 to 100 in Lagos State. There's a level of innovation the government has tried to bring into the education sector. Out of the 1,009 schools, they've probably brought in a program, EXCELLENCY, 300 of that. So that's like 30%. But a lot of this is still very tokenist in approach. It never really scales up. It never expands. It's never consistent. That's another problem as well. And you still have many children that are walking long distances to get to school, like in the Ojo local government, in the rural communities of Lagos State. And you still have a lot of children that are sitting on the floor, right? They have teachers that are not properly trained, teachers that are not, they're not excited about their job. So a lot has to be done in the education sector. Currently, per capita spend of Lagos State on education is about 8,000 naira, and that needs to be increased, at least doubled. And a lot of investment must be done in teacher training and ensuring that the whole syllabus system, especially in the public school, is more consistent and is improved significantly. And then we also need a situation where we are looking at continuous learning, not just for the young, for the older people, right? So they can keep up, they can have employability skills and actually really make education something that is happening inside the school and also outside school, right? So outside school programs and things like that. The main idea is, because I went to ISL till GSS 3, or SS1, I think. Yeah, SS1. Then I finished my A-levels in Paris. And the thinking from the idea of having practical knowledge, where you're not cramming and drawing computers, right? You have a lot of people that are drawing the process of a chemical reaction, but they never do that chemical reaction. You have people that are memorizing the image of the heart in biology, but they never actually play with a model of the heart. So that's why you find that when a lot of students that study in Nigeria go abroad, they excel because all of a sudden they don't have to cram anymore. They are seeing things that they can hold practically and they have deeper knowledge of it. And that's what we need to have in Nigeria. We need to have very practical knowledge that allows you to be able to earn a living, and it's also peculiar to the peculiarities of your local government. So, for instance, policy for me in a place like Badagry in Ikorodu will be part of your education must be to understand aquaculture, right? Because that industry should be expanded in that particular local government, So, for me, education must be very practical, must be something where we move from the cramming side of it, because that seems to be a huge focus in Nigerian education, and make it more practical. And also the economy that we have today now with in-demand jobs, where you don't need to go to school. You spend 6 months learning a skill, you can be earning $1,000 to $2,000 every month, even when you're working in Nigeria. So we need to improve employability skills and open up our young people to the world, because these jobs are in demand and it's not based on local peculiarities of Nigeria. You can be in Lagos working for a tech company in California because you can code Python and they need so many people to code. So these are all peculiarities that we need to get in. And also, getting back to, it's not informal, but giving people the skills to produce things, right? So because the dropout rate once you enter high school is significant. A lot of these people drop out of school and they're not going back to school again. So what skills do they have to be able to earn a living so they don't become the next Agbero on the corner, right? I say to people that imagine when you walk on Bond Street or anywhere in London and you're seeing these furniture. Most of them are made in Indonesia, right? Are we saying that we don't have craftsmen that can be producing furniture that we're exporting to London, right? And have a whole industry of it, right? So there are a lot of practical things we can open up our economy and education to. And I'm very passionate about education.
I understand where you're coming from, and Nigeria's education as a whole needs an overhaul.
Yeah.
We're going into a dispensation where you could study something in the university or in the polytechnics and end up doing something totally different.
Yeah.
We found a way of not wasting your time to study law if you want to be a dancer or something.
Yes.
Why waste $50,000 when it's not like you want to be in the legal team of a dancing company? You understand? We need to fine-tune our education to suit us. That's my understanding of it. Our education was never tailored to suit us.
No, it wasn't.
It was fashioned after a society that we're not in any resemblance with.
Yes.
So we need to have that. And what are your thoughts in that particular regard? There...
So, yeah, right.
Oh, no, go ahead. Okay.
Yeah, so I agree with you 100%. I feel that one of the first things we need to look at is history. And people might, turn their nose up at it, but understanding your history as a people gives you the sense of pride that allows you to be able to look for solutions within yourself. If your mind is programmed that everything that came before the white man is evil, you will never in yourself know that you can solve problems of yourself, right? And our history is great. It's amazing. It has linkages that goes all the way to ancient Egypt. And there's so much story. And the good thing with history, when you look at the way the Americans groom their citizens, and the British and the French, they literally celebrate the qualities they want in their citizens by teaching them history of those people or actors in that time. So they're saying this is what it means to be heroic. This is what it means to be great. And it's I'll use the word brainwashing, because when you see the Americans that you don't see where they get that sense of exceptionalism from, that sense of pride. It's all in their history. And they pick and choose what they're going to put in there. So they will say slavery was mass migration of workers, right? They find their way. And as a country, as a people, as a society, we also must take history. So when you're talking about peculiarities and molding education to fit who we are, history is one of it. Also, teaching with things that are accessible and are normal to the regular people. So A for apple does not make sense because most people don't know what an apple looks like. A for agbalumo makes more sense, right? And thinking like that. Also, another thing is the advantage of a child, which is a disadvantage as well. Like there was a lady, her name will come to me, where she talked about how children that learn Yoruba from an early age at home, they lose progress, because when they get to school, it's almost as though they have to start learning all over again. And then the kids that are spoken to in English from the beginning, they seem to make progress, and then those kids later on catch up. And then she did an experiment where those kids continued learning Yoruba for some time and then did exams and were excellent. So also taking all these factors into consideration. And then, like I said, tailoring our education as well to our culture, right? And to our peculiarities, all with an aim to create a very well-rounded, well-informed, a person full of pride, African pride, and a person with the ability to produce. At MIT, the motto was mind and hand. So no matter how brilliant you think something is, no matter how brilliant your idea is, you must make it with your hand, right? You must men's and manners. You must make it with your hand, and they'll give you everything you need. We had laser cutters, we had CNC routers, we had 3D printers, and this was like 10 years before it was available to the public. But the main idea is that produce, you must make, and I think we need to bring that into our education system as well.
All right, awesome. Talking about history, one of the things that history tells me, I don't know if you agree with me, is our beliefs, our ideologies, our cultures, our traditions were not allowed to evolve. They were regarded barbaric. Oh yeah, every culture, you see, the Americans and the British, they're all nice, clean, and posh now. But let's remember, there was a time when if you offended the King of England, your head would be on a spike.
Yeah, of course.
Of the palace.
Yeah.
Every society evolved. I remember reading the biblical story of David and Goliath when David severed the head of Goliath. He held it in his hand like this, and holding, and they were hailing him. And today, Israel is not like that. You understand? So our beliefs, we were considered backwards, and we were considered inferior, and we were taught that our ideologies were inferior. I'll give you a very practical example. My dad studied medicine in Romania. He had to learn to study.
Wow.
So he spent 1 year studying the Romanian language, and he did all his exams, took all his notes in Romanian. And when he came back to Nigeria, he now had to start converting what he read and studied in Romanian into English.
Wow.
So we also need to put our, our history, our traditions, we need to put them in a place of honor.
Yes.
And help by making the people admire, have aspiration for what we stand for. I know this is off point, but is there anything your government is planning to do about that before we move to other projects?
I agree with you 100%. They say until the lions start telling their story, history always glorified the hunter. And when you understand the history, when the Europeans discovered the Benin bronzes, the Ife heads, and the amount of crisis it brought to their entire society because they could not understand how these things were done and were of the similar sophistication as the Roman sculptures, right? And they tried to make it seem like some white people from one far place came and did those sculptures. I don't know if you're familiar with Leo Fabrinus or any of that, but the point is we have our own level of excellence. Our culture is excellent. There are so many stories. When the Portuguese discovered the Benin city, they compared it to Portugal. It was clean. It was well planned, right? But until we tell these stories, until we let our people know their story, we will always see our past as mediocre. And if you don't know where you're coming from, you can't really go to where you are supposed to go. So for me, I tell people that part of Lagos, my vision for Lagos is create somewhere that is a magnet for tourism. Tourism, not just to come to the beach, tourism to, look at art, to really display culture and history, because there's so much resources that can be gained from that. You have people in Brazil that are going to come, people from Cuba that are going to come. In fact, you'll find that Yoruba culture is more enshrined and celebrated in places like Cuba and Brazil than even in southwest of Nigeria. And these people want to come, right? So we need to create that avenue for them to be able to come. And that's about telling our stories, you know, showcasing our culture, the history of it, the art of it. I mean, look at how successful ArtX has become, right? And there's so much more that it can become. So that'll be part of the policy for my government to be able to do that as a major magnet for tourism.
Absolutely. I love the fact that you share that, because if you read Acts chapter 8, there was an Ethiopian eunuch who was reading the book of Isaiah aloud.
Yeah.
He was returning from pilgrimage, going back to Ethiopia, where the queen, the Kandake, was the queen. And as of when Acts chapter 8 was written, England was home to some barbarians who were eating each other alive, and
Exactly.
animals.
Exactly.
And, you know, and all
Exactly.
it to us. I'm like, oh wow, you know,
Yeah.
they white. I don't want us to go into this too deeply, but they whitewashed everything. Yeah, I'll ask
Yeah.
you, who discovered America? You hear it's Christopher Columbus. What happened to the Red Indians? They were living there all the time.
Exactly.
China, they'll say it's Marco Polo. Meanwhile, Marco
Yeah.
Polo was slave to the Khan in China because
Yeah.
he was enslaved, but he still
Yeah.
managed inside the slavery to discover the China that enslaved
Yeah.
him. You know, and
That,
when we
it's just like how most Nigerians believe Mongo Park discovered River Niger, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
very fascinating. As the Mongo Park comes around and says, "Hi guys, this is River Niger," and they go like, "Oh my God, it's a river there." Mongo Park, thank you. All right, let's talk about safety in Lagos. I was driving home for this interview, and my heart was in my throat. Any small movement around my car, I start to panic. I'll be telling my wife, hide your phone, don't let people see you, you know. And I'm just coming from the UK. I was in the UK for 12 days. Nobody hides phone. You sit in the car. Fine. Now I know there's this craze for luxury watch
Yeah.
in the UK, where they will literally steal your watch. It happens a lot in Mayfair and those environs. They see you with a Rolex or an Audemars, they will rip it off your wrist, and sometimes they will even chuck you knife to take it. But aside that, you even my son, for instance, let me tell you this funny story. My son could sleep in a separate room in the hotel we stayed, but he can't sleep on his own bed in Nigeria. He wants to sleep on his first bed with his sister. The fear is in the, and I couldn't understand. I thought it was going to be a problem. So I had planned that if we shout on him to go and sleep in his, because we had a suite with 2 beds. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, me and my wife will sleep in one room. If it's too hard, he will come and join us in the bed. He slept alone, and I'm like, aren't you afraid? So there's this fear, this spirit of fear that goes around Nigeria. We have high fences with barbed wire.
Exactly.
We have police patrolling the estate. What can be done to make Lagos safer? And this, when you see those days when I say Lagos is not safe, what comes to your mind is Ikorodu. Lagos is not safe. Hey, Mushi. Lagos is not safe. Hey, Meron, Agbado,
Yeah.
Mangoro. Hi, internet just decided to show color now.
I'm
Sorry.
here.
Well, there was a popular story I was reading about a young man who had a bloodied nose. It's on all the blogs today. I don't know if you saw it. He was
Yeah.
captured at the Lekki end of the Lekki Ikoyi Bridge, kidnapped, taken to somewhere in Surulere. He said he was fortified with with African jazz, and he was able to escape, but some were not so lucky. So it's no longer what we read about in the newspaper, what we hear about. It is gradually crawling to our doorsteps. I remember NSAS. Before NSAS, I used to say, nothing can ever happen on the island. Island is safe. After NSAS, a lot of people a lot more people started to jackpot, even people who have no reason to jackpot, beginning to fear that Nigeria is taking a funny turn. So let's talk about the issue of security. You, as a Lagos State governor, cannot address Nigeria's national security crisis. And permit me to say, if I say it, it is a crisis.
Yeah.
They are still releasing the people that were kidnapped on the train 6 months or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Now kidnappers are returning old notes. They want new notes. It's a crisis. How do you intend as governor to fix the Lagos State security? Let me downgrade it from crisis to a security issue.
Okay. So it's a multi-pronged approach, and it's one that will be done in the system. One, Lagos State has a number of communities. So, it breaks down from local government to wards, and then you have communities, like real communities where when you come in there, they know a stranger is there. Now, these people must form part of the pillars of this security architecture. So that's the informal sort of security architecture where you're gathering intelligence, you're gathering data, they are working with the local government. And that's why the local government is so important. It's important that they become autonomous. Unfortunately, the Lagos State State Assembly voted against local government autonomy. But we need our local governments to work. So we have visionary leaders at that local government level that can be chief security officers of those local governments. So they then work with the communities and they're gathering information, gathering data. That's the informal data gathering mechanism. Because you'll find that in most communities, if you go past, for instance, in Badia, your phone gets missing, there are people you can go and talk to that will know where your phone is. And if you talk to the right person, you get your phone back. You might have to give them 2,000 or 3,000 naira, but you will get your phone back. So there's a network of information that exists. Right now is to formalize that network. Secondly, the formal sector will be surveillance ring around the entire state, right? That's tied into incentives. So for instance, registering for health insurance, right? Having access to health insurance as part of my vision for Lagos State. A biometric capturing will be done. And it's not something where you all have to go and stay in an office and queue for a long time. No, in every ward, there'll be a place, at least 3 places where you can do that biometric capturing so that whatever movement you make in Lagos to a good degree, people can track the movement on the roads. The idea of this is deterrence. The reason why you can be in Hampstead, you can be in different parts of London, even most parts of London, nobody's building any high fence. The windows don't have burglary proof. It's because if you try anything, the cameras will catch you, right? You will not be able to make it far. And this is important for a state like Lagos that has such a small footprint, but so many people. There must be a level of intelligence surveillance that happens across the state. Secondly, we must increase the quality of life of our police force. We must help them, we must equip them. We must work with the federal government to ensure that there's a lot more recruitment, especially for Lagos State. And then we must consistently push for state policing. Right, because that will also improve the quality of security in the state. And then that's on one arm. That is in terms of deterrence and enforcement. On the other arm, this Agbero menace that has, taken over Lagos State. And a lot of people, unfortunately, do not remember a time where Agberos did not exist. But there was a time where none of these systems existed. And we need to go back to that time. So first of all, as my government, we will not be trying to cheat the system by suppressing voters or using young people to intimidate voters. No, we're going to do the work and leave you to vote in a free and fair election. So we don't need this system anymore. So we'll be working with them as stakeholders to figure out what level or type of employability skills they want, make it available to them so they can earn an alternative means of living. Now, the more we can lift people out of poverty, the safer Lagos State will become. And the dream that we want for Lagos is you'll be coming home and you are not feeling you need to rush home because you feel unsafe. because we need to make Lagos State a 24-hour city, right? In my first 4 years, I want to make it a 16-hour city. In 8 years, it must become a 24-hour city. That's when businesses can start to thrive based on the economies of the land that they are sitting on, because our land prices are extremely overpriced, especially for businesses, the rents that they are paying and all that. So the time that they exist in business where people are rushing home because they don't feel safe, these things need to change. And it's only by securing Lagos that we can actually successfully achieve that.
Let's talk about police, since you mentioned the police force. Let's talk about SARS and NSARS. Two perspectives, the same coin. What are your thoughts on SARS and NSARS?
Well, let's start with SARS. I believe that the indiscriminate stopping of people and, really flouting their rights as citizens is disgusting. I feel that there should be a process for things. Young people's lives and the quality of life and their rights must be respected. And that's why, as part of the NSAS protest, I joined them. I did not go to politicize it or to steal limelight, but I was there. Right? Whether I was bringing water for people or bringing things to encourage people, I was there. And I felt that it was a cause that must be, if you leave bullies to continue doing what they're doing, it only gets worse and gets worse and worse. So you must always stand up to a bully. And that's what SARS became at a point. And that's why it spilled over the way it did. And SARS, I feel, was an awakening. In fact, I'll say that the seeds of this new awakening of youth getting involved in politics was planted during the NSAS. And I feel it was a very important reflex point in our history. At the same time, it's very unfortunate how it was handled, whether it's the switching of the lights at the toll gates, whether it's who sent the army to come and shoot at innocent protesters. Very unfortunate how that happened. And then also it's very unfortunate how police that had nothing to do with any of that were then killed. People that had businesses that, they had nothing to do with NSAS. They bought goods hoping to sell, destroyed. So many assets of the state were also destroyed. So in the entirety of it, there's so much pain and loss on two sides. I feel that as a government, a lot more empathy should have been put in place. There were things that did not need to be done. I feel that the reason why everything spilled over came down to politics. You will find that at a point when this story is really told, you'll find that it was just 2 or 3 people that had to prove something to a northern oligarchy, and they just decided to hell with it. You'll find that when the story is eventually told, because it did not have to go down that way. It didn't, it didn't.
Okay. I want to ask about women. Very important. Any government or group of people that does not consider women is not going to be a stronghold in years to come. Women seem to like you from the comments. I've been reading the comments. I've taken time out. Oh, they look at that Diary of a Canadian Mom. Oh, he's brilliant. All the women, if you're a woman and you're listening, can you raise your hands? Let me see. All your comments should be sneaking and tight. He's a fine guy, young, intelligent. So let's talk about all these women that are hailing you. What are your plans for them? What are you going to put in place for the women folk in your government?
Okay, it's a very important question.